and welcome to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Gary Day of the 187th District, and I represent people in Lehigh and Berks counties. On today's program, I have a lot of helpful information to share with you. The focus is on our seniors and the programs and services available to them. In addition, we'll be discussing elder abuse, which isn't always physical, but can also be mental and financial. Joining me to talk about all of these things is the Secretary of the Department of Aging, Brian Duke. Secretary Duke, thank you for joining me today.
It's great to be here, Representative. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, please share with us, let's start off by introducing you to the people of my district, and why don't you share your background, how you came to be involved with service to older Pennsylvanians.
It's a pleasure. So I'm a lifelong Pennsylvanian. Educated also here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, went to the University of Scranton for my undergrad degree. Most of my career has been spent in healthcare or the provision of human services. For 20 years I was a hospital administrator, and due to a personal experience of caring for my late mother who lived with Alzheimer's disease, became involved in the support of family caregivers and aging. And since that point, worked in the academic setting at the University of Pennsylvania at the Institute on Aging, then did some consulting across the country, and most recently before the governor asking me to come to Harrisburg and appointing me, served as head of the Bucks County Area Agency on Aging, which is one of the 52 area agencies on aging we have across the Commonwealth. So it's an honor to serve.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that introduction, and what a great background to have to come and lead our department here. Now, many people are aware are aware of the tagline on the lottery, benefits older Pennsylvanians. Can you tell us what types of services are funded through the lottery?
Geez, indeed it does. 75% of the budget, when you look at the Pennsylvania Department of Aging and the PACE program, which many are familiar with, the Pharmaceutical Assistance Contract for the Elderly, 75% of that budget comes to us from the Pennsylvania Lottery, the remaining 25% from federal sources. When we look at that, it supports so many different programs and services. For us at the Department of Aging, it supports everything from meal programs to protective services. You were mentioning elder abuse, and I know we're going to talk about that probably a little later. The provision of in-home services to help our citizens living in their homes and helping them stay in their homes and communities longer. The money also goes to other departments of state. So the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, for example, gets an allocation. That's to support the shared ride program. And the Department of Revenue gets an allocation, helps support property tax and rent rebate program, which is also a benefit that's available to our citizens.
Right now, just to share with our viewers, I represent parts of Lehigh and Berks County, and just the area, the dollars that come back to the district in Lehigh County, the entire county, $4.5 million comes back for our senior centers and our area aging centers as well. In Berks County, it's $6 million. So quite a lot of dollars come back to the community. It's a way of summarizing it. I don't usually like to summarize, here's the wheelbarrow money, but it's $10 million across both counties. And PaceNet, that's about $10 million across both counties. The property tax rent rebate, the property tax, the school property tax in particular, probably ground zero for the impact and the negative effect of our system is in Berks County, leaking over into Lehigh County as well. The group most affected by that are our seniors, so that rent rebate doesn't eliminate it, which is one of the things we're trying to do, but it helps toward that, and we appreciate it. I can go on and on. The rent rebate is $16 million in both counties. Long-term living is $11 million, a little more than $11 million, and that free ride program, another $3.7 million that those assets are brought back. I believe you said 75% of those would be from the lottery.
75% of our overall budget, right, is from there. Right. And grateful to you and other members of the legislature too, because some have the misunderstanding that if we just had a big drawing recently and they think all that money just flows to the Department of Aging. It really is part of our serious consideration and budget process we have here in the Commonwealth, and we look at the allocation of those dollars and how they're done, and we're grateful to support the legislators who look and see the needs of our elder citizens and set these allocations as we move forward.
Now, you talked a little bit about home-based and community-based services. Can you get a little more into, studies have shown that when, I think most people would say, my grandparents, my parents, myself included, and my children, all generations, feel better to recuperate at home, to convalesce at home, or whatever the case may be, rehabilitate at home as much as possible. And we find our healthcare provisioning system moving in the last 20 years towards get out of the hospitals and come back to the home. Can you tell us a little bit more about what your department does to aid that and help people stay in their home?
Sure. So we provide what is commonly known as home and community-based services to fit that very need you just defined. If you ask any of our citizens, our fellow citizens, they want to stay in their homes and communities. And we provide a great array of services through the area agencies on aging. First is what we would call an information and referral or information and assistance service. So any citizen, regardless of age, can call an area agency on aging and receive information about what's available to help them with their particular need, whether that be a service offered through the Area Agency on Aging or a service that's available in the community and the Area Agency on Aging is aware of it. They can convey information and how to access those services. And second, after information is received, it may be determined that that is a case that should receive more attention. So in a very practical way, that information is then conveyed over to our care managers at the Area Agencies on Aging, who review the information, contact the person or their family member if that's the one who's expressing the need, and begin a process to do an intake, and then come out to the home if necessary and do an assessment and actually see what are the person's needs. The majority of the services we offer through the Area Agencies on Aging are social service supports, so they help the person stay in the home longer. Maybe personal care or personal assistance, where somebody comes into the home and helps perhaps with activities of daily living or independent activities of daily living so that they can stay in the home longer. And what does that mean? It means the things we do each and every day. Maybe help with bathing, maybe help with the laundry, maybe help maintaining the home, or it may be help with other personal care needs that the person may have in their home. And then we do that for a set period of time or a set frequency, and that's all determined in a care plan that's developed after that assessment is conducted. And the people delivering the service are usually providers in the community, so they're neighbors to the people who are receiving the services. They're usually small businesses that have been established in the community to provide each of these services. And then contracts are established between the Area Agency on Aging and their providers. Those contracts are monitored too, so we know the effectiveness and quality of that service delivery. That's a longer answer.
Right.
But
That's great.
That's what we do for home and community-based services.
To me, that was a very efficient answer. It's a lot of work that is done to aid people and help people. I would find that that there's probably key things that, let's talk about this assessment a little bit. Some of my seniors would be a little wary of letting someone in their home assess me. It's almost like a mental exam where you think, hey, I want to put up my guard and say, I'm afraid of what they may find. But can you put our viewers, the residents in my district, can you put our viewers at ease to how this process is? And I'll start by saying, whatever the weaknesses are, it's better to find it now than falling, balance screening. We do that we have 2 senior events in our district, and we do balance screening. So if a senior knows ahead of time, hey, I have a problem with strength in my right side or my left side, they can work on that, and it may prevent falls, which may lead to very serious injury. So can you talk a little bit about that, why they shouldn't be afraid and why it's a benefit for them as individuals?
That's a great question. We encourage our citizens to know first the person coming through the door has a dedication and passion about helping, and they're coming to help. Sometimes people are fearful of that, and it's hard to ask for help, especially if we've been independent people our whole lives and now I have to ask somebody for help. Sometimes that's the source of hesitancy. And so we ask people to know that the person coming is coming to help and that they are in control, right? So they are still an independent person making decisions about their own well-being. And so they should know that. And the second thing, sometimes there's a fear that, I'm going to provide information that's going to be shared with others. And they should know that the process that we have in place when we do an assessment and when we take information about the person's health and their finances and how they're living in the community, or what informal supports or other people in the community that aren't necessarily a formal provider of care are coming to help. We do that so we really know what the person needs, and we have strict rules about confidentiality of all that information. And that's in every way that that information is communicated and how that plan is reviewed. That confidentiality is a #1 priority. And so our citizens should be encouraged by that as well. So there are two things I would offer to them to encourage them to reach out for help.
And I would just add that, you know, our office is available at any time. If you have a problem, to call our office. We'll get you in touch with the local centers or departments, or out here into Harrisburg, and get you the right people to talk about this. And remember that making small adjustments, a friend of mine, an older friend of mine, said life is about adjustments when you get older, and I'm starting to feel it myself as well. And you know, you make a small adjustment now, and it can prevent radical lifestyle changes in the future with worse injuries that could happen.
We often talk about that, Representative. We have two main foundational building blocks to our department. One is prevention, the other is protection. When we talk about prevention, it's the actual determination and provision of services that can help the person perhaps avoid the need for more comprehensive or expensive services down the line. That's the important point.
Right.
So.
Right, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
The overall entire healthcare system has always been evolving toward prevention and how to, and it's the smart thing to do. And that's the way I look at this. That's why we're doing this program, to get the word out that there's things to help in state government with these small adjustments. Now, let me ask you a little bit about PACE and PACEnet. I know to you it's written on the back of your hand and on your eyelids, and you work with this all the time.
Sure.
But can you explain for our viewers what that does, what those programs do that help people, and anything close to it that you think would be important? But I think it's important. This show is meant to give people a baseline of a base of services. So could you tell us a little bit about PACE and PACEnet?
Sure. So what we do know about all of us, whether we're older or not, is that at certain points in our life, or maybe for an ongoing condition, physicians may prescribe prescription medications to help us. And we know how important it is to maintain compliance with the prescription's recommendation or prescription that they write, and so that people take their full prescription as directed by the doctor at the frequency and amounts that are prescribed. And we know that access to medications can be a challenge for some, because they could be seen as overly expensive, or perhaps the coverage plans the person has does not provide the adequate coverage. We have a program in Pennsylvania. It's probably one of the best benefits. It's the Pharmaceutical Assistance Contract for the Elderly, or PACE program. And there's also the PACEnet program, which helps persons who may have a little bit higher levels of income. We encourage our citizens who have prescription medications and may be experiencing a challenge in receiving those medications due to the inability to pay for them, to contact their Area Agency on Aging and discuss that need, because the Area Agency on Aging can then assess them to see if they're eligible for the PACE or PACEnet programs. And most of our pharmacies across the Commonwealth participate in the program, so there wouldn't be a challenge there, and they could get their prescriptions filled and receive the assistance they may need. And so it's a very important program. There's an open formulary in the program, so there's no restriction in terms of the medications that are provided via the program. Some other pharmacy benefit programs may only have selected medications, but with the PACE program, it's an open formulary, and that's another key benefit that I think long ago, when our legislature created this program, they made sure that that was in there. So.
Now, can you tell us about, are there any potential changes that people who are already understand and in that program, in the PACE or PACEnet program, what are some changes that may be coming down, that have come or are in the works to happen?
One of the things that we think are going to happen is Representative Seth Grove has introduced a piece of legislation to extend PACE benefits to our citizens whose income may be increased due to Social Security. And so that piece of legislation is under consideration right now because the PACE program does have a sunset provision that occurs frequently. I think it's every 2 years. So this piece of legislation would extend the PACE program and would also address that situation. So a citizen who may have a cost of living increase from Social Security and be placed over the financial limit would not lose their benefits. And so that's for the PACE Net program. And so we're confident that legislation will make its way through. We're hopeful. And that's one of the changes we'll see coming up.
One of the things we're trying to do with this program is get information out to you, the viewer, understand some of these programs. We're throwing a lot of information at you. If you have any questions about this at the end of the program, my phone number, email will be available on the screen for you to jot down. So get a piece of paper and pen. Right now we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to talk more about elder abuse, some scams, and some other important information that I really want to get out to everybody. So please stay tuned, and Legislative Report will return in a moment.
Did you know that the chamber of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives contains a painting depicting the 24 hours of the day? Located in the center of the ceiling, the mural titled The Hours was created by artist Edwin Austin Abbey. This wonderful masterpiece charts the setting of the sun, moon, and the many stars that grace the heavens. 24 maidens, who each represent an hour of the day, begin each day in light and gladness and ends in solemn drapery carried on still shoulders. Now you know.
Welcome back to the program. My guest today is Brian Duke, Secretary of the Pennsylvania Department of Aging. Thank you for taking a quick break there, and hopefully everybody stayed tuned. We are talking today about issues for seniors in our district. It's across Pennsylvania as well, but particularly today to you, the viewer. What are the different programs available? We talked about the Area Agency on Aging, our senior centers. If you don't use those services, you may want to consider that. You can always do so by contacting me through my office, and we'll help you with any concerns that you have. We just got done talking about PACE and PACEnet, what it does for prescription drugs, one of the big juggernauts of expenses for our seniors. We talked about the property tax and the rent rebate. So if you missed the first half of the program, those are great programs that work toward the things that people tell me in our district what they need help with. And there's millions of dollars coming back to Lehigh and Berks counties for these assets to help people. And it's my job to communicate to you what services are available. We also talked a little bit about long-term living. We talked about how staying in your home, making small adjustments now, getting a little bit of help. A lot of people in my district are what I call bootstraps people. So you talked about those, Secretary, and you talked about how it's hard to ask for help at some points in your life. So when you've been handling things all by yourself. But sometimes making a small adjustment, getting a little bit of help, keeps you from other problems that may occur and make a drastic change in your lifestyle and your living. So next, I wanted to talk a little bit about, now I know there's a topic out there that you've been heavily involved in, so I want to get right to that so we have enough time to talk about that. And it's the Alzheimer's Disease State Planning Committee. It's very important. There's people that touch every family, including mine, that the planning committee is currently developing a long-range strategy to how to care for these individuals. Hopefully, our scientific community also finds other ways to stem some of the tide of the negative effects on individuals and families of the disease of Alzheimer's disease. Can you tell us a little bit about your involvement and maybe transition right into what the committee's doing, why we need a long-term plan?
Sure. So the Pennsylvania Alzheimer's Disease Planning Committee, which I'm honored to chair, was convened by our governor following his execution of an executive order. The executive order was inspired by members of the legislature, members of the committees, members of the Alzheimer's caucus led by Representative Kathy Watson. And Governor Corbett was inspired to hear from them of the need to help our citizens with Alzheimer's disease. We're the fourth grayest state in the nation, which means when you look at the population over 65, we predict by as soon as 2015, 1 in 4 of our fellow citizens will be over the age of 65. That's a significant number. What comes with that growth is an increased incidence rate of chronic diseases, but also diseases such as Alzheimer's disease and related disorders. 400,000 of our fellow citizens live with Alzheimer's disease or a related disorder. And that number continues to grow as our population continues to age. And so recognizing the growth in the incidence rate of the disease, our governor saw a crisis coming, and a crisis exists, and we need to look at it. And he formed the committee. 26 citizens, 8 members of the legislature sit on that committee, and they're doing an outstanding job at fulfilling what we hope to present in a plan to our governor.
So the long-range plan, explain why a long-term strategy is something that's important. This committee should be putting together a plan that talks about not just what are we going to do this year and next year, but have you seen, I guess I'm asking for a little bit of a foreshadow. Have you seen or know certain things that we're going to either need to confront or things that we've already have plans in place to confront?
Yeah. So a governor asked us to do 3 main things. He asked us to define the state of Alzheimer's in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, what's going on now. Second, he said, look at our resources, our providers in the community, look at the 2 nationally recognized Alzheimer's disease research centers that exist in Pennsylvania, one at the University of Pittsburgh, one at the University of Pennsylvania. He asked us then to give him recommendations based on our review of what's going on with Alzheimer's and the state of Alzheimer's in the Commonwealth. I think it will be, as you're indicating, a combination of short-term actions that we can take to help our citizens. One of the things that's coming out in our discussions is about outreach, not only to the general public so they're more aware of the disease, so that if they are living with the disease or they are family caregivers, they know more, but also talking about our professionals in the field who are providing care each and every day, either in homes or in institutions of care, hospitals or nursing home, assisted living facilities and other places, to make sure they're aware of the disease and what needs to be done. So that's short term. Long term, we know we have to advocate for research. Most of the research is funded at the federal level, and we want to add our voice to that advocacy because we know this disease deserves to be researched at the fullest extent possible to try to find out what we can to move towards a cure. So really it's a balance of short term and long term. It's a balance of care and cure, and that's what we're seeking to achieve with the committee plan.
Well, that's outstanding, and I appreciate your service in that. As I said, once it's touched your family, along with any long-term care situation, you really need help. Even if I consider myself to be one of those bootstraps people, we'll provide for our own family, but until you've tried to actually conduct 2 or 3 days of 24/7 care, you don't realize how overwhelming and you can go through a lifetime of savings in a short couple months trying to achieve that. So as a community, we come together and try to work together on that. Let's talk a little bit about elder abuse. Let's talk a little bit about the financial side, the scams. Many times I'm going out to speak to different groups, and at almost every speaking engagement, someone stands up and says, I received an email that said, we were just talking and you said, grandson was, is in prison in a foreign country and needs a cash transfer immediately, things like that. And what I always try to tell people is, I'm a middle-aged guy. I'm not a young guy. I'm not an old guy. I'm in that middle age. I have enough experience to be beat around a little bit, but not quite up to where my seniors are in experience. But they were the generation, my parents were the ones who taught me, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And that's what I try to convey to everyone. But beyond that, can you explain a little bit about what we're doing in Pennsylvania to when someone either a victim of a scam or prevention? What can you give our viewers?
So the key point is that our second main building block, we talked about prevention earlier in the program today. The other is protection. So we offer protective services to citizens of the Commonwealth. Any citizen can make a report of need, first of all, if they see any form of abuse, neglect, exploitation or abandonment. But also at the same time, if they suspect a scam or fraud, receive a letter in the mail, it just doesn't look right, an email, as you mentioned, or a phone call, they should call the Area Agency on Aging and report that. And the Area Agency on Aging can then connect with other organizations in the community to address, to investigate, to find out what's the background on that piece of information they've received, and advise the person as to whether it's a legitimate or not legitimate form of communication to them, trying to get to their money.
Right.
They should be careful.
Right. Thank you very much. You've provided a number. I want to encourage all of our viewers. You can call my office and we'll help you with that. We'll get you to the local area agency or someone here in Harrisburg. We'll get you to the right place. If you'd like a little bit more privacy, you can call the number directly, and we'll also put that on at the end of this program on the screen for you to jot down. I'll give you the number right now. It's 1-800-490-8505. Let me give that one more time, 1-800-490-8505. So if you'd like to call directly, that is the Elder Abuse Hotline. It'll help you with any type of information from there forward.
It's available 24/7.
Oh, and it is 24/7.
That's right.
We're coming toward the end of our program. We have a little bit of time left, but I just want to summarize also. There's many people, many of our seniors in my district, who watch a program like this and say, oh my goodness, what's that costing us?
Yeah.
We outlined today, I think I said 10 million, these are the 5 different programs, 10 million, 10 million, 16, 11, just into Lehigh and Berks counties, and another $3 million coming back into the community. We talked about a lot of that money comes from the lottery, so benefits older Pennsylvanians means that it's not coming, a majority of that money is not coming from our tax dollars. So it's something where we take an activity and use that dedicated funding source to help sometimes our most vulnerable and the people who got our community to the point it is now and done a great job, as far as I'm concerned, doing that. It's my job to let you know that these programs are available for your usage if you need them. If you don't, that's wonderful and that's great, but if you do, it's my job to communicate that. It's also my job to say that I believe, I'm on the Appropriations Committee, I go through our budgets. The Secretary and I have talked about efficiency and economic use of these dollars. His background in one of these, in Bucks County, gives him the ability to share across the state ways to be very economical with the use of these tax dollars. I don't know if you want to make any quick comment about just efficiency of the department.
Well, I think we always are. The fourth goal of our state plan right now is to look at what we do, to assess what we do, to answer the question, what is the impact of what services we provide and how we provide them, and
Right.
to assess how we provide them on an ongoing basis. That's important. And it's also important to think about everything we're talked about today in terms of commitment by our legislators, commitment by our governor to help older Pennsylvanians, to help family caregivers. He signed the Family Caregiver Support Program Act given to him by the legislature in December 2011. He's helped with background checks on people that work with people through digital fingerprinting. He just made the largest single investment, $50 million, to help in our 35-year history, to help citizens stay in their home and communities. Single largest investment in our history to help people stay in their homes and communities, because he knows it's the right thing to do. Our legislators know it's the right thing to do, and it's a call for us to be effective and efficient with those resources to help more and more of our citizens.
And you know what? It's only fair to say that you are a member of the corporate administration and you're a firm believer in the governor, and I appreciate that. I often tell people, no politicians exactly agree on everything. However, I am a much more effective state representative with Governor Corbett in office and his team, like Secretary Duke, taking care of each of the departments and moving Pennsylvania forward. They listen to us, we listen to you, and try to pass that information through, and we work the way it should work, getting this information from you back to the governor and his team, and trying to make Pennsylvania a better place for everybody. Well, that's all the time we have for today's program. If I can assist you with any state government matter, please feel free to contact my office or through my website. That information will be shown in a moment. Thank you for watching, and please join me again for Legislative Report.